So, in the last bit before the cut, Izuku was talking to the reporter lady, and he asked her out on a date, and she's like, "That's preposterous," because she thinks he's 15, which he's 17 right now, because mentally he's 17, but his body's still 4. It's still 15, you know. But then he's like, she says it's preposterous because you're a minor, and he's like, but technically I'm going to live forever, so does it really count? And he's like, does the rules of society really apply to me if I'm going to live forever? And she's like, fair point. And because she's so dazzled by him, right? She's like, yes, I will let you take me out on a date. And basically, class 1A is just seeing this, and Momo and Froppy and Uraraka are like, huh? And they're like, so Mans is just pulling older women like that, huh? And basically, I'm just gonna say that Momo and Froppy like Izuku now. They like him now. They like his new attitude and his new demeanor and stuff. And basically they're like jealous. They're like, why does that old hag get to go on a date like that? And there's not gonna be a ship in this one, bro. It might as well be a harem, but it's not gonna be a harem. So Izuku, he's just gonna date multiple women, but it's not gonna be a harem. He's gonna be like a man about the town, you know. He's just gonna enjoy life and have sex with multiple women just because he wants to. That's what I'm gonna make him. He just goes all around the world, enticing women and fucking them. So he goes out on a date that night, like that same night that he asked her out. He goes on a date with her, right? And they go to this expensive ass restaurant, because let me say that since Izuku is immortal, he just like, and he can't feel pain as well, so he just cuts out a bunch of his organs, and they regenerate like the instant he cuts them out. So he just cuts out bare kidneys, like a massive amount of kidneys. He just cuts them out, right? And basically, instead of he goes to the hospital, and they're like, "What? Where did you get all these?" And he's like, "Well, I have a super regen quirk, so." And he's like, can I sell them? And they're like, well, we have to test you for the regen quirk first, because, you know, a bunch of people have said that, and it turns out it was just different people's things. And he's like, it's cool. And he just like grabs us, you know, those little knives they use for dissection. He just cuts his whole arm open. And they're like, what are you doing, sir? And you know, the blood just evaporates, and the cut just refills up. And I'm gonna say in this one, his immortality is not like Bond. Actually, his blood doesn't evaporate. His blood just stays there, but the wound disappears. I'm gonna say in this one, his immortality is like Bond's, but not really. Like the cut off body parts and stuff don't like steam away. They remain. So if he gets his head chopped off, he doesn't have to reconnect with his body unless he can reconnect with his body. He will just grow a new one out of nowhere, and his old body will just be on the ground. So they're like, okay. They're like, we needed a new supplier anyway, because we found out our old supplier was working for the black market. And he's like, well, it's cool. I'll give you like 100 kidneys and livers and stuff. And he's like, I can even give you hearts as well. And they're like, your regeneration is that advanced? You can carve out your heart and you won't die? And he's like, well, yeah, I'm immortal. And they're like, okay, you are a supplier for life. And he's like, whose life? Mine or yours? And basically, he's just joking, bro. He's just having a good time. And basically, he got mad money because, bro, do you know how much a liver costs? Or a heart? That shit costs a madness. So he's selling both to the hospitals, because he wants to do a good deed while also getting money. So he sells them to hospitals, right? Or if the hospitals can't afford them, he just donates, right? So he has bare money. I'm gonna say he's like a multi-millionaire. He has 20 mil at this point because he sold kidneys and hearts and stuff to all of the hospitals around Japan. So Japan, hearing that Izuku Midoriya came back from the dead and is now selling his organs because he is apparently immortal. They're like, he must be the Miracle Man. They just call him the Miracle Man. That's what they call him, right? So he takes the reporter on a date and says he has 20 mil. Just takes her on this fancy ass date, right? And basically, him and this reporter are having a good time. She gets a little bit tipsy, but she's good by the end of the night. And he takes her back to his place, where I'm gonna say is like a penthouse, fam. He got his mom a him and his mom live in a penthouse, and his mom doesn't hear him come in because she's like still trying to. Actually, I'm gonna say him and his mom got a penthouse because his mom is like really proud of him and stuff. But he sent his mom and his dad on a cruise vacation. He's like, you will never have to struggle again in your life. And his dad is has finally come back from his work because he heard that his son is back to life because he can miss a bunch of things but he can't miss this, right? So he flies back to Japan. They have a very heartwarming reunion and he's like, you'll never have to work again in your life. He's like, I will pay for everything, and basically sends them on a luxury cruise so they can reconnect, because his brother and his dad haven't been doing too well, so he sends them on a luxury cruise. And so he gets to his penthouse and the woman's like, how do you have all this? You're only a high school student, my nigga. And he's like, I'm immortal. And she's like, what does that have to do with it? And he's like, well, I sell my organs for stuff. And she's like, your organs? And she just gets this grim look on her face and she's like, then how are you alive? And he's like, because I regenerate. And she's like, oh shit, that is smart. And so, they go back to his room and the start clapping cheeks. And he claps with his I'm gonna say it's a 12-incher, So he claps, and then she doesn't go back home, she stays at his place because he's kind of a douchebag and kind of not. He's like Deadpool but a gentleman, so he lets her stay the night, right? And she's like, does that mean I'm your girlfriend now? And he's like, nah. She's like, what? And he's like, I'm just on some casual sexting. And she's like, that can work too, because just she doesn't want to lose that 12-inch. But anyway, he goes to the UA Sports Festival the next day. And so it's now time for the UA Sports Festival. So at the start of the UA Sports Festival, President Mike is like announcing everybody, and then he gets to Izuku Midoriya. He says, Izuku Midoriya, back from the dead. And Izuku's like, they don't call me Izuku the Undead for nothing. And basically, everybody's like, what? Who calls him that? And he's like, that's my hero name, nigga. And everybody's like, yeah, yeah. And because they see him embracing, he's undead. But everybody still feels a little bit weird about it because they saw this nigga die, right? But anyway, so they start the race, right? And Todoroki instantly freezes the ground, and he's like, Izuku might be immortal, but he can't get out of this shit. So Izuku just walks out of that shit. Like, his shoes are still frozen, but he just rips out of his shoes. And he starts walking, and the ice is like freezing to his feet. But it's not ripping his feet apart or anything, because he can just crush the ice, and he's just crushing the ice as he steps. And then he just like overshoot jumps like All Might. And basically he just jumps all the way to the canyon because he's like, miss me with all that bullshit. That's his new motto. And he just like jumps over the canyon as well. And then when he gets to the bomb things, right? The landmines, he just steps on all of them. And when he reaches the finish line, he just has a bunch of like bruises and scratches on him and broken bones, and everybody's worried about him until they just hear a crack and everything in his body just heals. And they're like, well, that kid's immortal and he's gonna win. And but they're like, if he's only immortal and he does, but he's only immortal, that just means he can't die. It doesn't mean he's strong, you know. That's what people are thinking, right? And so I'm gonna say All Might. He gave his quirk to Mirio just because it's the next. He would be the logical explanation. So he gives his quirk to Mirio, right? And Mirio's in the stands watching this, and Mirio and All Might think it must be All for One. All for One must have given him this power. Like, there's no way that a quirkless loser would just come back from the dead, right? Because All Might at this point hates Izuku because he thinks he's working for All for One. And so after the sports festival, him and Mirio are actually gonna confront Izuku because Mirio has been turned into a bit of a jackass by All Might because him and Izuku haven't met yet. So he thinks Izuku is just this villain. And so when when Izuku is what do you call it? When they ask him who he wants for the cavalry battle, right? He just like, I don't fucking know. Like, you tell me, because I'm pretty sure there's I don't remember. Fuck. There's four people for a cavalry, right? I think so, but I don't remember, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, so everybody sees the 1 million on him, and so they're trying to take it from him, right? And Uraraka comes up to him, and she's like, Deku, can I be on your team? Blah blah blah. And he's like, miss me with that bullshit. And he just goes up to Momo. He goes up to Momo, um, Todoroki, Kurashima, and Sue, and he's like, so you trying to be on my team or what? And they're like, no way, bro. Like, you have the 1 million headband, and we trying to take that shit. He's like, all right then. And he goes up to the Proctor, and he's like, Proctor, can I just do this on myself? And they're like, and because he's been betrayed, and people don't want to. They don't want UA doesn't want to give off the wrong image that they hate Izuku or something, right? They want to keep public opinions in their favor, so they just let him do whatever the fuck he wants. So they're like, yeah, sure. Are you sure about that though? And he's like, I'll be fine. And everybody sees it as him being cocky, right? So everybody charges at him, and my nigga just like he just starts running like at a low speed. I'm gonna say he starts running like Ida. Yeah, he's doing the same speed as Ida, right? And he's running, and everybody's starting to attack, right? And Bakugo throws its big ass explosion at him, and he just comes out of it completely fine and just smashes Bakugo's face into the ground. And he's like, "Woo, let's go, MVP!" And he's just having fun with it, right? And he goes up to Uraka, right? And she doesn't think he's gonna hurt him. And then he like places a hand on her stomach and just slams her into the ground. And he's like, "Whoa, gender equality!" And everybody in the stands are like, "Well, damn, he's gonna win." just they just think like, well, he has power and he's immortal, he's gonna win. And who'd you call it? Monoma goes up to him and touches him, right? And Monoma touches him and tries to steal his quirk, quote unquote. And Monoma's like, but there's nothing there. And Izuku's like, that's the point. I have power, not a quirk. But he doesn't say this to everyone. He just whispers into his ear. And Monoma's like, what? And he just thinks it's a quirk that he can't take, like one for all, you know? And so so I'm just gonna say that while he was distracted, Shinzo did the whole mind control thing. Well, at least he tried to, but he couldn't because, like Deadpool, his cells are infinitely regenerating. So he regenerates so fast that his mind is incapable of letting psychic attacks. You know, which I'm gonna say, Shinzo is actually a psychic, but he can only control people with his psychic ability. So, I'm gonna say uh, he was off guard when he was around. Who'd you call it? When he's around Kirishima, Froppy, and Momo and um, Todoroki, which I'm gonna say they formed the team. He's off guard when it comes to them, so they snatch his headband real quick, and basically he notices that, and he's like, "We're playing cheeky, are we?" And basically he just does fox hunt, and the thing comes straight back to his hand, and go like, "How?" And basically time runs out. Everybody has the same score as in canon. They put Izuku against Shinzo, and Shinzo does the whole thing. He says it must be nice to have just amazing power like that, and Izuku's like, "Nigga, have you not heard about me? Like, I died for this shit. I trained so hard that my bones broke, my nigga, for this shit. So you do not get to tell me that it's easy, my nigga." And he just like blasts Shinzo out of the arena, right? And craters him into a wall. And then it's him against Todoroki, which Todoroki's like, "You might be immortal, but I'm still gonna win." And Izuku's like, "No, you wait, my guy," and just speed blitzes and punches him out. I know you guys want me to do like a whole big what you call it, big fight for Todoroki, but fuck that shit. And everything's going towards canon until it comes to Bakugo, and Bakugo's like, "Nerd, you came back from the dead, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna kill you again." And he's like, "You're immortal, right? So you won't die. So that means I can go all out." And Bakugo shoots the biggest explosion he's ever shot in his life, which the teachers had to protect the audience because I'm gonna say Bakugo had the grenade things on his hands, and he shot it towards Izuku, and basically Izuku comes out of the thing, and he just it's just like a bit of his face was blown off, and basically he covers it with his hand because TV censorship. So he covers it with his hand, and when he takes his hand off, it's just healed, and he's like, "Is that it?" And he rushes towards Bakugo and just boom, crushes his face again. And so, winner Izuku Midoriya, and All Might goes to announce the winner of the sports festival. He puts the medal, and he puts it on um, Dark Shadow. Says something about control or some shit. Goes to Bakugo. He says, "Great job." Goes up to Izuku. He's like, "I don't know how you did it, but I know you're working for All for One." And Izuku's like, he just starts laughing, and he's like, "Fuck you, All Might." And the crowd is like, "What?" And Izuku literally grabs the medal. He crushes it in his hand into a little ball, and he just shoots it at All Might, which to All Might's surprise makes like this giant red spot on his head. And All Might's like, "How?" And he's like I said, "Fuck you, All Might." And basically Izuku just jumps off, and All Might jumps off after him. And All Might's like, "You need to tell me how you got this power, blah blah blah." And Izuku's like, "How do you think I got this power?" And All Might's like, "So you did get it from All for One." And Izuku's like, "No, I didn't." And fuck you, All Might. And as Izuku's flying, right? Because I'm gonna say he's not flying, but he's flying like All Might does, right? He's flying the same way All Might does, and All Might's like, "How are you doing this then?" And Izuku's like, "Because I had power in the first place." It turns out that the power you gave me just held back my own. And All Might's like, "What?" And Izuku's like, "Yes, my power is way better than yours. I like it more. I can't die, so you can do shit to me anyway. And you wouldn't want to ruin your reputation as the number one hero, would you?" And then Izuku's like, "Anyway, toodles, I have to go clap some cheeks." And All Might's like, "What?" And he's like, "I have women to fuck, nigga." And and um All Might's like, no, this isn't the Izuku Midoriya I used to know. And Izuku's like, well, you aren't the All Might I used to admire. So fuck you and your new successor, Mirio. He can fuck himself too, because he's still not powerful enough to defeat me. Oh, fuck. Shit. Damn, my shit just keeps turning off. I'm sorry. But like I was saying, Izuku says, your successor can't beat me, and fuck your lineage, and fuck everybody that has anything to do with you. And All Might's like, you can't you can't possibly blame me for this, young Midoriya. And Izuku's like, bitch, you practically left me to die, so fuck you, and fuck your successor. And All Might's getting pissed at this point because he's like, you might not like me, but you have to like young Mirio. He is the successor of One for All. He's gonna become the #1 hero, and he had nothing to do with this. And Izuku's like, well, you've groomed him basically to hate me. Um, so I don't care about him. I'm gonna become the #1 hero because your power is weak as fuck. And he just starts walking away. And All Might like gets angry and grabs him, and he's like, "How dare you call that power weak when you've experienced how good it, how strong it was." And Izuku's like, "No, I experienced how it broke my body at every chance it got, and tried to kill me, and you tried to kill me. So fuck that power, and fuck you, and fuck Mirio." And Izuku just goes off. He just like walks away, and then All Might sees him meet the reporter, right? And All Might tells the woman what he's doing with Izuku, because he thinks that Izuku's a villain still, right? And she's like, that's none of your fucking business, bro. Like, mind your business. And All Might's like, do you not see who I am? I am All Might. And the woman's like, and I don't give a fuck, because Izuku just told her everything that All Might did, and he's gonna do this to every single one of his girls. And she's like, and I don't give a fuck. And All Might's like, see, he has corrupted you. He is a villain. And she's like, no, he is good at fucking me. And she just like walks away with Izuku. Give me a second, I have to go right.